A huge winter storm is coming to the United States today and tomorrow, and this is going to dump tons of snow anywhere from the Central Plains back into the Midwest and as well as the Ohio Valley, and then eventually going towards the Mid-Atlantic. In addition to that, we are talking about a big ice storm and as well as the threat for severe weather today, including damaging winds, large hail, and also a few tornadoes, which a strong tornado cannot be ruled out. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about today's winter storm and why we think another winter storm will be happening later this week. We'll begin with what's happening across the country this morning, and for right now, our winter storm continues to organize and ramp up. Moderate to heavy snowfall and as well as freezing rain and sleet are now falling across parts of the Central Plains and as well as back through areas in the lower Midwest. This is only going to ramp up as we go throughout the day today. A lot of moisture right now coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. Again, this is just aiding for a perfect winter storm setup. Back over on the East Coast, things are quiet for right now, but trust me, it's going to get very crazy as we go into tomorrow, especially back over in the Mid-Atlantic region where we are expecting a lot of snow and as well as the threat for some sleet and freezing rain. And just a heads up, before we go further in today's forecast, I do want to mention that we are going to be live on this channel in a few hours with multiple storm chasers in the field and hundreds of live cameras covering this winter storm and as well as a severe weather outbreak. So if you are new to the channel, subscribe down below and click the bell icon so you're notified when we do go live. Now, we have a ton of watches and warnings across the country now. This is just crazy. We have basically over a dozen states right now under some level of a watch advisory or warning related to this winter storm. We have blizzard warnings that now include almost all of Kansas, back into northwestern Missouri and southeastern Nebraska. This now does include the Kansas City metro, where we are expecting near zero visibility today due to heavy snowfall and high winds. Winter storm warnings are in effect anywhere in the pink, so that goes all the way over into Virginia and now going into Maryland and across much of Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, just a ton of states included in that. Winter storm watches in effect still back over near New Jersey, and then winter weather advisories in the purple, which still includes several different states. Now, this right here is a view of this winter storm this morning. This thing has blown up in size. I mean, this is way larger than what it was only 6 hours ago. You'll notice this was what it looked like last night. This is what it looks like now. This thing has become a lot larger, and it's only going to get larger as we go throughout the daytime today. Notice we have lots of snow falling on the northern side of this low pressure system. We also have freezing rain and sleet right smack dab in the middle of that, anywhere from Kansas and northern Oklahoma back throughout parts of Kentucky. And this is only going to intensify and get worse as we go throughout the morning and afternoon. Heavy snowfall is expected to blanket areas in Kansas, Missouri, back into central Illinois, Indiana, and Kentucky right around the late morning into the early afternoon. Freezing rain will continue, especially back over in parts of eastern Kansas, back into central Kentucky. There will be that threat of severe weather as we go into the early to mid-afternoon hours across the lower Mississippi Valley. We'll talk more about that threat here in just a couple of minutes. And also some sleet will be falling here as well on the furthest southern side of where that wintry precipitation will be. Eventually, about 3 to 4 o'clock this afternoon, heavy snow will continue to move east towards West Virginia, southern Ohio, southern Indiana, and also back through central Illinois. Snow will start to taper down back over in Kansas, and then eventually, as we get closer to around 9 to 10 o'clock tonight, heavy snow continues to track east towards areas like Washington, D.C., northern Virginia, central Ohio, and even back over closer to the Chicago area, where there will be a little bit of light snow up there. And as we go into the overnight hours into early Monday morning, notice how we are going to be talking about some very heavy snowfall back over in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland. Going to be dealing with mostly snow out of this. So like Washington, D.C., for example, we are expecting mostly snow there. Very little freezing rain or even normal rain is expected in that area. And then eventually by lunchtime tomorrow, that snow is moving towards areas in very extreme southern New England, near Long Island, and also back through Pennsylvania. A little bit of back-end snow will happen out of this low pressure system as well. So back over in Maryland and Virginia and Pennsylvania, by tomorrow night, there will still be some snow out there, but it's going to be much lighter than what we're talking about out of this large-scale storm. And then eventually, as we go into early Tuesday morning, we are mostly clearing out with any of this snow potential. Now, in terms of total snowfall accumulation, it hasn't changed a whole lot from yesterday. We are still on track right now for most areas in the pink, seeing at least 8 to 12 inches of snow today, but we do expect a lot of areas to be over a foot of snow, especially back over near Kansas City, throughout northeast Kansas, northwest Missouri. 12 to 16 inches of snow is a very realistic forecast. Parts of southern parts of Illinois and as well as Indiana, we're also expecting between 10 to 15 inches of snow in those areas. St. Louis, I would also anticipate 10 to 15 inches of snow, and back over in northern and central Kentucky, it's going to vary a lot. Southern side of the state will be mostly sleet and freezing rain, which will lead to ice. Center part of the state will be a mix of freezing rain, sleet, and snow, and then the northern side of the state, areas back over near Cincinnati, for example, are going to be as high as upwards of 10 to 15 inches of snow, with maybe even an isolated spot closer to 18 inches of snow. When this is all said and done, I wouldn't be surprised if we have 1 or 2 locations near 2 feet of snow. Don't be shocked by that. I think there will be a couple of spots that are close to 2 feet when this is all said and done. Back over in the mid-Atlantic and throughout the Northeast, we are also expecting plenty of snow over here. Much of Ohio will see snow. If you're back up near Cleveland, for example, we're not expecting much. Columbus is still on track for around 5 to 8 inches of snowfall. Cincinnati, as I mentioned before, we're still expecting over a foot of snow more than likely. And then also back over in parts of central and southern Indiana, back over near Indianapolis, anticipating around 7 to 10 inches of snow in those areas. And then back over here near Washington, D.C., we are also anticipating in this area somewhere between 6 to 10 inches of snow. Few pockets will probably get upwards of 12 to 14 inches of snow around and just outside of Washington, D.C. Southern New Jersey as well will likely pick up at least 8 inches of snow, perhaps as high as 12 inches of snow in those areas. Now, in terms of ice accumulation, this is again going to be a big-time ice storm as well. We're going to be talking about some significant ice accumulation, especially in southern central Missouri, back into southern Illinois, Indiana, and almost all of Kentucky is going to be dealing with some level of icing. And so this is going to lead to the threat for some big travel impacts and as well as power outages. Make sure you're prepared for power outages. It's not too late to prepare. If you got flashlights in your home, make sure those are ready to go. Charge up devices. Also make sure you're protecting pets and as well as pipes, people, and plants if you've not already. As we go further to the east into areas like the mid-Atlantic and as well as the Ohio Valley, again, almost all of Kentucky will have some level of icing as we go into tonight and as well as into tomorrow. And then back over in areas like West Virginia and Virginia, we're not expecting really significant ice, as in over a half an inch of ice accumulation, but there will be pockets that even just see a glazing to a 1/10 of an inch of ice, which will make untreated roadways slick. So make sure you're taking it slow on the roadways if you have any intention of traveling. Most of the freezing rain this far to the east will not happen really until either tonight or tomorrow. Now, the threat of severe weather is increasing for today in the lower Mississippi Valley. We do have a very strong southwesterly flow located in the low to mid levels, which is going to create a lot more spin, which will end up leading to the potential for some tornadoes. Overall, this tornado threat today is mostly going to begin around 11 to 12 o'clock and then eventually run through about 6 or so for the most significant threat. Overall, our tornado parameter values, which gives us an idea of where the greatest tornado threat is, are actually low to medium today. We have some values upwards of 3 to 4, which does indicate that there's a pretty good amount of wind shear and there's also a favorable environment here for at least a few tornadoes, maybe even a strong tornado, especially if we see some discrete supercells. I think our greatest tornado threat will ride right between 2 to 4 o'clock, especially near the Mississippi River in southeast Arkansas, northeast Louisiana, and western Mississippi. So be mindful, have multiple ways to receive alerts, and have a tornado action plan in place. Again, we'll be live on the channel, so make sure you're subscribed down below and click the bell icon so you're notified when we do go live. This tornado threat around sunset will start to die down. We'll still have maybe an isolated spin up or a tornado embedded in a line of thunderstorms, but that'll be a much lower threat after sunset, and then eventually the tornado threat is near zero as we go into the overnight hours. Now, in terms of the threat and also the future radar here, so again, this is by 1 o'clock, we'll have some of these semi and discrete supercells out in front of the line of storms. These are the ones that could produce maybe an isolated strong tornado, and that's really where our greatest tornado threat will be. The damaging wind threat is going to be the greatest in this line of thunderstorms, and once this line catches up to those discrete cells, that's going to lead to more of just a wind threat with maybe a few tornadoes embedded in the line of storms. That's why this severe weather threat when it comes to maybe a strong tornado is a much shorter time frame, and that's why we're only expecting, again, mostly a wind threat today. But there will be a few tornadoes out there, I think, during the very late morning and into the early to mid-afternoon hours. Eventually, this is just a linear line of storms by about 5 to 6 o'clock, so scattered damaging winds will be moving through Mississippi, Louisiana, and even parts of southern Tennessee, before eventually becoming a much weaker system as it moves through Alabama overnight, and eventually by the time we go into Monday morning, it's just some showers and isolated thunderstorms moving into the southeast. Now, beyond this winter storm, we're going to have another chance for another winter storm as we go into the later half of this week. This is going to originate from 2 different moisture transports, one of which is out of the Gulf of Mexico, the other one out of the Pacific Ocean, and once these two air masses merge in the southern plains, this will lead to the potential for a big-time winter storm. But the GFS model has downtraded on the most recent run, showing that any snowfall would actually be back over in areas like the Ohio Valley, the East Coast, and back over into the Northeast, which is vastly different from what we saw 12 hours ago in this computer model. So until really tomorrow morning, we're not going to have a great idea of what this storm is going to do, since it hasn't really grown up into size in the Pacific Ocean. Once that happens, we'll have a much better idea of what this is going to be doing. So until then, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and click the bell icon so you're notified when we have our next video update, which should be tomorrow morning. This is what the European model, by the way, is showing for probabilities of seeing greater than 1 inch of snow later this week. Pretty high high probabilities across Texas compared to the GFS model, which is showing no snow right now in Texas. So there's definitely some model discrepancies right now, but again, we'll keep you posted with the latest. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, and again, we'll be live on the channel in just a few hours. If you're watching this near 10 a.m., we're going to be live sometime probably between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m., and we'll be live for several hours today. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys soon.